What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here, and look at what China is doing. You're not going to believe this. And on one hand, they're saying this. Yeah, just here today, China vows not to sell any arms to any party in the Ukraine war. You think this is good? You're like, okay, great. They're not going to sell it to Russia. They're not going to sell it to anybody here. China says they won't sell weapons to either side in the war in Ukraine, the country's foreign minister said Friday, responding to Western concerns that Beijing could provide military assistance to Russia. China has maintained that it is neutral in its conflict while backing Russia politically, rhetorically, and economically at a time when Western nations have imposed punishing sanctions and sought to isolate Moscow for its invasion of its neighbor. However, part of these leaked documents have revealed that China has agreed to secretly arm Russia. Part of these leaked documents from this military trader have revealed. Intercept of Russian intelligence shows that Beijing wanted to disguise lethal aid as civilian items. These reports are saying. Yeah, China approved provisions of lethal aid to Russia for its war in Ukraine, but wanted any shipments to remain a secret, according to leaked U.S. government documents. The top secret intelligence summary dated February 23rd, which is my birthday actually, stated that Beijing had approved the incremental provisions of weapons to Moscow, which it would disguise as civilian items, according to a report in the Washington Post. The intelligence was gathered by U.S. agents eavesdropping on Russian Secret Service discussions, the newspaper reported. The Russians said that China's Central Military Commission wanted the shipments to remain secret, which obviously now it hasn't. Separate intelligence files in the trove of leaked documents said Beijing would consider a significant Ukrainian strike with U.S. or NATO weapons on Russian territory as an escalation of the conflict that would merit sending arms to Russia. So you can let me know your thought on that. Not only that, listen to what Congresswoman Maria Salazar is saying here today. Yeah, take a listen to this.
Joining us right now is Florida Congresswoman and member of the House Foreign Affairs and Small Business Committees, Maria Salazar. Congresswoman, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for being here this morning. What is the impact from a foreign affairs perspective, the impact of this leak?
Well, the impact is that these things should not be happening, and we, as a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, we're going to get to the bottom of it. And these type of leaks cannot be happening ever. But we also have to concentrate on what that documentation says. And specifically when it comes to my part of the world, or China, and the Chinese penetration in Latin America is mind-boggling. And that is something that we have been saying in the House Foreign Affairs Committee, subcommittees for the Americas, that the Chinese are here not for trade, but for war. So even though we should have not leaked these documents, once it has happened, the information that we have read is mind-boggling.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned China infiltrating pretty much into Latin America. I want to point you to a headline this morning.
Oh, yes.
China's foreign ministry has sanctioned U.S. House Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Michael McCaul. So China doesn't really care, the Communist Party, what you're saying. They just sanctioned Mike McCaul over relations to Taiwan and the trip that you all took last week. China's Xi Jinping also told his armed forces yesterday to strengthen military training for, quote, actual combat following the recent drills around Taiwan. A new survey from the Pew Research Center finds 38% of Americans say that they view China as an enemy, while 52% call it a competitor. Congresswoman, what should be done in terms of the provocations out of communist China?
And you know, Maria, why they are sanctioning Michael McCaul, the chairman of the committee that I belong to? Because he's doing a great job. And because we are within the GOP conference, the Republicans in the House of Representatives, for the first time, we're saying to the world and to the country, be careful with China. China is here in my hemisphere, not for trade, but for war. And that's because Michael McCall has given me the instructions to explain to the world what they're really doing. And let me just give you a few little details that will scare you. I'm not sure if you know that in Argentina, there is a Chinese military space station in Patagonia. That Chinese military space station has the size of 400 football fields. 400. What are they doing there? We do not know, because the Argentinians cannot even go in and investigate what the Chinese are doing. President Xi Jinping has been to Latin America in the last 10 years more than President Obama, President Trump, and President Biden combined. They are lending money to Latin America. 30% of their lending. But the lending is, very, very mysterious, because they're investing in utilities, in soccer stadiums. So little by little, they're penetrating, because they just want to fill the vacuum that we, the United States, have created.
Yeah, no, I am aware of the Chinese threat. I cover it every single day and have for several years. We have Chinese Communist Party police stations in New York. So, I mean, why do we need a CCP police in New York when we have our own law enforcement? So the question becomes, what are you doing about it as an elected official? Here's one question. We know that China has most favored nation status when it comes to trade. Why does the Communist Party of China get a break on trade, leaving the United States with a deficit? As an elected official, can you vote to change that?
Of course, but we have to create the laws. And as I said, and I mentioned to you, we as the GOP, the majority in the House of Representatives, we know that threat that you have explained to us. We know that China, it's the enemy, and we need to stop it. How do we do that? Nearshoring and creating legislation that will indicate that we are not going to give them what you just said, more favorable trade. It's time to decouple, which is the fancy word right now, decouple and bring all that industry back to this hemisphere, whether it's Canada, Mexico, or Argentina, or go to the friendly countries, Europe, Asia. But it's time, because, I'm Cuban American. I represent this beautiful city of Miami, the heart of the Cuban exile community. We know that communism doesn't bring anything good. Yeah, and the Chinese are communists.
But, corporate America seems to be funding the expansion of the CCP, investing in all these companies that are tied to the CCP military. So, I mean, is there a movement within the Foreign Affairs Committee to start making that investment off limits? Why are all these Chinese companies in our indexes? Why are Chinese companies listed on the New York Stock Exchange that don't follow the audit rules that American companies do? There's so many issues here. There are companies that are Chinese companies that are on the sanction list. Why? And why are Americans unwittingly investing in them, in effect, funding the expansion of the CCP? Will you stop it?
Of course. And I am the number one advocate for what you just said. And I am sure that Michael McCall, we are preparing legislation to whack the Chinese, because that is what they deserve. Like I said, they're not here for trade. They're here for war. Look what they're doing with Taiwan. They're just sending signals that Taiwan is next. Why? Because we don't have leadership, strong leadership in the White House. Yeah. Unfortunately, this has nothing to do with political parties. Nothing. This has to do with American interests. Yeah. And the American interests right now are in danger. And we understand very well the threat that you just explained. Well, that's why I'm sending the messages that in Latin America, in my region, things are not going well for the American interests.
Now, she's not the only Congresswoman that has had these type of feelings. If you've been watching my channel, we have seen a lot of this from China, from Russia, and North Korea. And remember, the U.S. got attacked in Syria from Iranian drones. And this is just a growing concern from Americans and from people in Congress about the three-headed dragon. And don't forget what happened in Syria as well. This is just a growing concern here, as Americans need to be on high alert, and people in Congress as well, about what is going on here in our country. And then I also want to show you this as well. If you thought what Russia did to Brittany Griner, the two-time Olympic gold medalist basketball player, was bad, what they were going to hold her in prison for 10 years, on minor charges. Look at what China has done to a U.S. citizen. China upholds the death sentence for a U.S. citizen detained on drug charges. Death sentence. Look at the details here. The U.S. State Department on Thursday said it is disappointed by China's decision to uphold the death penalty with a 2-year suspended death sentence for wrongfully detained U.S. citizen Mark Sweden. Quote, today's People Republic of China's Xiamen Intermediate Court denied wrongfully detained U.S. national Mark Sweden's appeal and upheld his death penalty with a 2-year suspended death sentence. State Department Principal Deputy Spokesman said in a statement, saying, quote, we are disappointed by this decision and we will continue to press for his immediate release and return for the United States. U.S. officials have repeatedly expressed their concerns to top China officials about Sweden's treatment and medical care, as well as his inability to send or receive mail in a timely manner. Sweden from Houston, Texas, has been imprisoned in China on drug-related charges for more than 10 years already. He was sentenced to death in 2018. The United Nations Human Rights Council determined in 2020 that Sweden, however you want to pronounce that, was arbitrarily detained and urged China to make the, quote, appropriate remedy and release him immediately, which they apparently have not done and just ignored. Mark Sweden is a Texan who has been held as a hostage in China for over a decade. He has been sentenced to death on false charges, said Texan Senator Ted Cruz on Twitter earlier this year. China says they want to be respected on the world stage, but this is how third world despots act. They must release Mark. President Biden and Secretary of State Anthony Blinken are personally focused on releasing him and other U.S. nationals wrongfully detained or held hostage across the world, they said in a statement on Thursday. So, I don't know, maybe they're trying for a prisoner exchange or what. I don't know if China is considering something like that, but you've heard me say don't travel to Russia. Maybe we have to also say don't travel to China. Yeah, so, wow. And see, the thing is I know a lot of you guys are going to say, well, yeah, don't have illegal drugs on you or something like that. But also, you never know if they're going to just plant something on you, or who knows what they even consider illegal over there or whatnot. And who knows if you just talk bad about their country, what they might imprison you for or whatnot. So, word to the wise, please be very cautious. You never know. You take a cruise or something, just don't say I didn't warn you, or friends or family. If you have anybody traveling, taking a cruise, hitting multiple countries or anything like that, be very careful with countries like Russia, China, any of these countries that might be even considering Americans as not friendly. Don't say I didn't warn you here. So let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country and around the world that you need to know about that you might not hear otherwise. So make sure you're subscribed down below to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon after you subscribe. It's completely free to do so. This way you don't miss out on new videos that come out here on our YouTube channel every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for liking and sharing our videos. Here's some videos you should watch next. Here's a bill that President Biden just signed, and millions of Americans are going to be losing a lot of benefits. And here's a video about China going to be invading and an actual video on it. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.